Hello, everyone. My name is Ron Oliver. I am the CEO and founder of Elite Dynamic Life. Today, I have a special guest with me. This is Dr. Sterling Woods, and he is a brilliant doctor from America. I'm going to give him the mic so he can introduce himself and tell you more about himself. Then we're going to have a look at one of my clients, Owen Beck's blood analysis, so we can hear what the good doctor has to say about it. And then I'm going to get him to share some brilliantly amazing information on eicosanoids. And you're going to want to stay tuned for that because it's going to be really enlightening. It's going to be information you've never heard before. It's information you need to know because it will change your life. Thanks for coming in, Doc. It's a pleasure to see you.
Pleasure to speak to you today.
Thank you, sir.
I was born in Dallas, Texas, and I went to school at Texas Christian University and Dallas Baptist University, where I received my MBA, also as well as my Bachelor of Science. And it was in biology and chemistry with education. And I then went to medical school at Case Western Reserve School of Medicine, the Ohio College of Pediatric Medicine in Cleveland, Ohio.
Wow.
And after 4 years there, I was able to go do several externships. So I was most fortunate. I did one at Lindell Hospital and Children's Medical Center in St. Louis, and then the last one was at Lakewood General Hospital in California, where I was able to meet and spend some time with Dr. Linus Pauling, who won 2 Nobel Prizes. And we worked on research and vitamin C and wound healing and bone healing at that time. Later on, my residency in surgery, I was able to put forward his hypothesis of how vitamin C was much more important for the healing of bone than calcium was. And we were able to prove that.
Wow.
But after that, I did my residency at the Harris County program in Houston with 7 hospitals. And then I did multiple fellowships at Doctors Hospital in Tucker, Georgia, in advanced orthopedics. So my specialty was basically the lower extremity and saving legs, mostly with the emphasis upon diabetes. Wow. I saw a great number of diabetics. So the ironic thing is, when I first started my practice in 1980, there was not many diabetics, and I was in a very poor socioeconomic area. And at that time, worldwide, there was only 58 million diabetics diagnosed. By the year 2008, there was 528 million.
Wow.
So obviously, it is not a metformin lack that creates diabetes. It has to be what we do to ourselves in our diet.
Yes.
So throughout my life, I believed that there was another approach to medicine besides the classical approach. So I used both approaches because I learned at an early age that through my mom, who was diagnosed as a schizophrenic and was to have reverse shock therapy on her brain in the hospital, a doctor came in and found out that she didn't need any of that. She was just hypoglycemic. So
wow.
That's pretty scary. So they gave my mom 6 meals a day, lots of enzymes to metabolize her food, and she was my mom again.
Wow, so that is amazing.
That right there taught me that there's got to be an alternative way to medicine as well. So combining the two, conventional and alternative, I was able to have fairly good success. I would say excellent success. And, as the patients started to come into my office in the Dallas area, I had to end up by the year about 2000, I had 4 different offices I was going to be able to treat the number of diabetics and complications that I saw.
Wow.
And I did a lot of, I was one of the first people to ever use the MRI to detect early bone infection in diabetics and go in with rapid, aggressive surgical techniques to remove those pieces of bone to save the leg.
Wow.
And so when I operated on the people, I had to be able to heal them. So I was in wound care myself, in my office. And I used what I had at my disposal. I think very, powerful tools from what God had given us. I was able to see great results using seaweed in wounds that wouldn't heal. I would pack the seaweed and live in them for 3 or 4 days. Had tremendous healing.
Wow.
So, and
amazing.
I always spoke to my patients. I was able to try to get them to change their diet and was able to get most of them pretty much drug-free within a month. But many people didn't stay on the diet, and they went back to doing what they normally do. And so in about 2005, I decided to stop the surgical approach and develop a product, which we will speak about later.
Yes,
But,
that's exciting.
but I was able to very fortunately see the great work of Ron Oliver here. I'm going to give him a white lab coat and call him doctor now, because he's really done a good job.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Beck, I don't know much about, I know about his boxing history. I know he was a world champion, and he had fought a number of fights and was quite involved in Navy SEALs and karate. So he's not one guy you want to meet in an alley. But
that's right.
That's for sure right now. But when Mr. Oliver first saw him and did a blood analysis,
Should I pull that up?
Yeah, please do.
Okay,
Please do.
Here it is right here.
I got you. Obviously, on my screen, the left side is the before, and on the right side,
yes,
it's the after. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And what I'd like to talk to you about is, what is blood made of? Okay. Well, you have red blood cells and white blood cells and various forms of white blood cells, but you also have something called serum, and that's the fluid that carries this blood around your body. And how do you produce these white and red blood cells? Well, you have bone marrow that does that for you. And
Yes.
And so as we look at the early first visualization of his blood, you see a very cloudy appearance in the serum. Okay, that looks, if you want to look at it as a map, it looks like an ocean, and the red blood cells represent the shore. Okay.
Yes.
And the areas. But if you look at the serum itself and compare it to the view on my right, you'll see that the serum is very dark. It has granules of inflammatory tissue, and it has also crystals that look to me to be, I'm not a hematologist, but I've looked at a lot of slides, and it looks to me to be some form of uric acid. Now,
yes, that's what it is.
You say, what is uric acid? Okay, uric acid is something you don't want to produce. Okay, it's a negative byproduct of how you break down your fats. And
yes.
So what happens with uric acid, everybody's, I guess, kind of heard of the disease called gout, where you grab in your big toe or in your joints. Well, it's a form of severe arthritis due to the uric acid concentration in the joint. So this gentleman was, if not gouty, was expected to be gouty soon. And the one thing that I'd like you to look at on the left view of the first view of the land, as we said before, the red blood cells are pretty much clumped together.
Yes.
Okay, it's not a good thing. Okay, you don't want to see that in your blood. It means that there's a possibility that a clot could form along with the platelets, which are usually associated in that area for healing, for coagulation. They could get together with those red blood cells and form a clot in this person and end up being something cardiovascular like a stroke or a heart attack. And
absolutely.
On the right side, you see that the red blood cells seem to be solitary or by themselves or in groups of small numbers, but the clarity of the cell is quite visible. And you now can see the nucleus of the cell.
Yes.
Where the central portion you could not see before. So this, to me, is a 10-day miracle. Okay.
Absolutely.
As I say, I'm not a hematologist, but I have been around a lot of pathology and looked at it under the microscope. And I think anyone would agree in hematology that Mr. Oliver, or now Dr. Oliver, has done a good job. But I would say if it was my blood, I'd be very happy to see that in such a short period of time. And according to his research, it usually takes about 6 months to see this kind of changes.
Yeah, if you're doing something really radical, it's about 90 days to 6 months to clean up the blood that much. But we worked around the clock for 12 days straight, nonstop. And the first couple of days, we were just getting rid of the serious illness that he had. When he showed up, he was coughing his lungs out. He'd been sick with a horrible cough for about a week. So So the first 48 hours, we were just dealing with that, getting that knocked out. And then once the coughing stopped after 48 hours, and we went to work on detoxing his blood, and that was the result. And during that time, I did a fitness assessment on him to see what his strength and energy was like on day one after the 48 hours of getting rid of the cough. And on day 10, that was the result of his blood. And he had a 500% increase in anaerobic endurance in those 10 days. So that's how much his energy went through the roof from cleaning up his blood. So it's pretty amazing. We're really pleased with the results.
I'll say this, I was a doctor that dealt with people that came in and they had to have their toes amputated to save their life. And with a vascular surgeon had to be bypassed to be able to save the leg. Lengthy surgical procedures and lengthy rehabilitation. And I think that's the juncture of life where you don't want to get to. You don't want to get to that point where
no
the doctor says, now do you want to change? You can have all the money in the world, but you can't buy your health. You cannot purchase it.
Yes.
It's so invaluable now to let God's creation be what it's supposed to be, and to give it the right thing. And, Mr. Beck's blood beforehand, being a Black person, they have a history or possibility of having sickle cell anemia. Okay. And that's where the cells sickle and cause a vascular accident, such as stroke or heart attack. And he looks like he was fairly close to that situation. I'm not, we didn't do a sickle cell trait on him. But before operating on any Black person orthopedically, you have to do this to check out if the possibility. So any state that would leave him with a lack of oxygen could possibly cause a sickling. Okay, so
wow.
I think, but anyway, as I'm saying, in life, I think you need to really take care of this great creation you were given. Treat it as clean it up, treat it as a temple, put the right kind of foods in it. My goodness gracious, and strive to understand what the right kind of foods are. And and I think that Mr. Oliver is doing a terrific job here.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Give him my praise and tell people, please take care of yourself.
Thank you so much. Well, I believe that life is a precious gift. It's the most precious gift on earth is our human lives. And we really need to take care of them better. And unfortunately, in our modern world, marketing companies hired by multi-billion-dollar corporations to sell us fake food products, toxic beverages, toxic water, all kinds of toxic things you can buy and put in your home that are off-gassing. And we've become, a very sick bunch of people in North America because of these corporations that are, influencing our shopping. And these, the majority of Canadians and Americans today are just about every family you meet is going to be suffering from multiple diseases in their household. And it's really just a lack of knowledge of the truth. It's a lack of understanding of how to take care of these amazing creations that God gave us to live in our bodies. We really need to re-educate people and get them more awake to how their bodies are supposed to function, teach them how to hydrate their bodies properly, how to detoxify their bodies, to get all the garbage out like we did with Owen Beck, and then how to feed them properly so they can achieve, what we call homeostasis and start functioning again as a healthy, thriving individual. This is so important.
I forgot to mention to you, Mr. Oliver, that I read an article, a recent study from Columbia University. I'll have to pass it on to you.
Oh, please do.
Where they are now finding out that people who drink the water from plastic bottles are having plastic particles lodged in their liver and in their spleen and other areas. And it's nanoing into the bloodstream, and it's creating tremendous havoc over a period of time.
That is a serious, troubling fact. And it's interesting you bring that up, Doc, because I was just looking at an article today discussing this exact thing just this morning. This is from People magazine. It says scientists say they'll cut back on bottled water after learning 1 liter contains 250,000 pieces of plastic. That's exactly what you're talking about right there.
Right there, but not only that, but the plastic is nano, so it means it's surrounded by a fat membrane of some sort in the
Yeah.
plastic, and that gets absorbed.
Yes.
I have my product is nanotechnology. Anything that you really want to have effective should be of a nano source.
Yes.
So I think people need to take a look at this. You know, the e-drink and Harvard study of 250,000 people, and I'll look at number one to whatever Harvard Medical School says, because they do it. They teach you 4 years of preventive medicine at Harvard, not 1 week, not 1 month, 4 years.
Wow. That's
You know,
awesome.
study, and the book is called Eat, Drink, and Be Healthy. And they found that the waters that are coming in these plastic bottles and stuff were not good at all. And this was years ago. They said, please, because the bacterial count is so high in there too as well. And with a study like that from Harvard of 250,000, I think I would listen.
Yes.
And try to get a better source of water and find some way. Okay. And I know Mr. Oliver's big about that as well.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to say that you know, I'm sure this article will get pushed somewhere where nobody can read it very soon. You know, and
I'm sure they'll bury it pretty quick.
yeah, I'm sure they will. But you know, I never growing up, I never saw a bottle of water. We'd go in the backyard and take a hose and just drink it. You know, we were kids.
Yeah, that's what we did when I was a kid too. How old are you, Doc, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 73.
Wow, you don't look 73 at all.
Thank you. I try to take very good care of myself. I have been always very, very athletic conscious and cardiovascular conscious and nutritional conscious and just, you know, treating my body what God wants it to be treated like. It is our
Yes.
temple.
Yes, absolutely. You know,
Thank you, Oliver, so much for letting me to speak to reinforce what you're doing. Okay.
thank you so much, sir. I would really love you to explain to the people listening what you can that will make sense for the average person about eicosanoids. We've had several conversations about this. I've found it very fascinating. I believe it's extremely important. And it's a subject that really I don't know anyone that knows anything about it. I've only talked to one person in my, career talking to, besides yourself, that actually knew what eicosanoids were. And you explained it very brilliantly. So if you can share some of that with people, that would be really beneficial, I believe.
I think the most important thing to say about eicosanoids is they gave a Nobel Prize to Harvard Medical School for it. It's considered the most dynamic Nobel ever given in medicine. Okay,
Wow.
And that was in 1982. But let's first get you familiar with hormones. Okay, and let's give you a real short course on hormones so you have an understanding of how these hormones work. There's 3 classes of hormones, but we're only going to talk about 2 classes now. One is called endocrine and the other is called apocrine. Okay. Now, endocrine I'll start with because everybody's pretty familiar with endocrine hormones. Basically, in the late 20s and early 30s, hormones were discovered. And they usually gave them the name from the gland or organ that they were associated with. So let's talk about a male. Testosterone from the testes. Okay.
Yes.
So that's pretty familiar. Now, the women with progesterone and estrogen, it's not really associated with one particular organ, but from her females. And then you think about thyroid, and you have something called thyroxine. The adrenal glands have adrenaline. So you can see the names are what they are. And back in the 30s, they discovered a hormone, and it was called prostaglandin, because they found it in your prostate gland of an inflamed, swollen prostate.
Gotcha.
Okay. That term today is a very common orthopedic term. And you look for prostaglandins when you draw joint fluid out of someone who's arthritic or muscular tissue, and you'll see a lot of prostaglandins, but they can work both ways. So let's start again with the hormonal course. We know the endocrine hormones took their name from the gland organ. So let's just talk about the male testosterone. So it's secreted from the testes, and when it enters the bloodstream, it attaches to a protein molecule that makes it inactive so that it can circulate many times in your circulation until it finds out where it needs to go, called the target cell.
Wow.
Between the target cell and the circulation is something called the interstitial space. And that's a space that guards against anything coming into the cell. It's like your blood-brain barrier on your brain. It protects you.
Right.
So when you're young and you have a lot of testosterone circulating in the bloodstream, now testosterone is not just a sex hormone. It's for your eyes, your hair color, for many things, skin, integrity. And women even have some amounts of testosterone. Okay.
Right.
So it's vital. And when you're younger and it's in the circulation and it sees the target cell and there's an interstitial space trying to guard from it. When you're young, you have a lot of hormones, so they're able to push their way across and do what they want to do. So as you get older, the hormones are not as many in number, andropause in a male and menopause in a female. So aging is really hormonal miscommunication. Hormones can't communicate, can't get across, can't do what they used to do. You got gray hair now, your eyes aren't as clear, your skin looks wrinkly. Those are all things, okay? So now you understand endocrine hormones.
Yes.
Let's talk apocrine, APOCRINE. These are hormones that were thought in their discovery at Harvard never to go into the bloodstream. They were found on every cell that your body possesses. You have 60 trillion cells, you have 60 trillion eicosanoids on the membrane of the cell on the outside.
Wow.
What these cells do, or eicosanoids, I'll refer to it as like an antenna. They stick an antenna into the serum. So we talked about the serum, where the blood, where the cells move. So it takes it and sticks an antenna in there. It detects. If it detects something that it shouldn't, it will shut things down. And the thing that it wants to not find is insulin in heavy levels. Okay. Now, what is insulin? That's an endocrine hormone secreted from the pancreas when your sugar's too high. Okay. It's an emergency hormone, but everybody overuses it these days because they don't eat properly.
Yes.
So now it's let's just say that you've gone to a Greek restaurant and you've had a rich Mediterranean diet, rich in olive oil, vegetables, fish, and that combination will not produce excessive insulin because those vegetables are slow to digest. The fats slow down that process and don't let insulin come in. And so your cells are happy. So all these 60 trillion cells, when they don't see this insulin, they go, wow, this is great. Here's the things I'm going to do. I'm going to increase your circulation. I'm going to decrease your inflammation. I'm going to make you burn your body fat as a source of energy and make you skinnier. I'm also going to not let your blood cells clump and create problems like we talked about clumping.
Yes.
And also I'm not going to let your immune system go sideways. And when they see this, they will tell all the cells, all 60 trillion cells will communicate at phantom speeds. And this will occur for the next 8 hours until you change your meal. So if somehow an hour after the eicosanoids are happy, you go have a chocolate sundae, well, it's going to do the reverse. So it's going to shut down the circulation, make the immune system go down, make inflammation go up, make your blood clump more easily. And so all this translates, those 5 positive or negative factors translate to either having a disease or not having a disease. So disease does not occur overnight. It takes many years.
Yes.
So inflammation occurs for many years before the disease is diagnosed.
Yes.
So now you got an idea about apocrine hormones. They communicate, they control 60 trillion cells based upon what they see. Okay. Now, before the Nobel was discovered at Harvard, another Nobel was given for a chemical called cyclic AMP. That sounds like a bicycle or something, but just associated with cyclic, like a bicycle AMP. Now, they didn't know exactly what cyclic AMP did, but they gave that Nobel because it was a powerful chemical. But later on, Harvard discovered that when the eicosanoids are happy and everything is going great, it drops cyclic AMP into the bloodstream. Those cells do.
Wow.
And that cyclic AMP goes down to that interstitial space where your hormones couldn't cross, and it helps them to get across. So when you control your diet and the African hormones, you control the endocrine hormones.
Wow.
So you're virtually controlling everything by what you put in your mouth. And I have written in books, and in the books I have said, there's been more graves dug with the fork than a shovel. And I truly believe that.
I do too. I agree 100%.
If you can get a patient, like even now at Harvard, if a patient comes in with a 400 blood sugar, they're not going to let that patient eat for 10 days. They're going to give them a liquid diet, something that doesn't promote any insulin, so that the pancreas can just slow down. And then they can start to work on that patient. If you could, people ask me, well, how do I live longer? You live longer by pushing away from the table.
Yes.
Because digesting food is the most difficult thing on your body. Only one more difficult, and that's fighting a disease. So by digesting the food and creating more problems, you're creating the disease. So
yes,
don't make your body work as an efficient mechanism. And I'll give you this example. I have a high performance car, and it says only use super unleaded gasoline. So I go to the pump, and there's one in America, there's one hose that fits into your tank, and you have 3 selections that you push. I don't know if it's the same in Canada, probably is, but
yeah,
you
it's
have
the same.
regular, medium, and super unleaded. My car says super unleaded only, okay? So I get a telephone call, I don't pay attention. I hit medium accidentally, fill my tank up, and drive off. For about 5 miles, my car is going to be okay, and then it's going to start choking, puking, resisting any throttle mechanism. So therefore, it's the same thing what you do when you put food in your body.
Yes.
So I think you have to be careful what you eat. And it's most important, according to the Harvard study, that you have an olive oil source at every meal. And a good idea is to drink an ounce of olive oil before you start your meal, and you'll see that the hunger is not as present. Plus, it won't allow your carbs to enter the bloodstream quickly. It slows it down.
Right.
So
That's a great tip.
and watch the amount of carbs that you have, make them high in fiber, chewable, and the protein should be a very good source. Okay, when you have that combination of this, where protein and carbs equal, where the carbs are not fast to release, and you add the olive oil in at your meals, wow, look out! It's a different thing altogether.
Absolutely.
I've seen it. I've watched it work in thousands of people. I've done human studies. I've seen it all, and it just, take your time and think about what you're going to eat.
Yes.
You're at the gas pump at every meal. Think about what you're going to order.
Yes.
What are you going to select? And I think that when you start finding yourself not eating as much, it becomes a ritual. And when you're not fasting, when you're doing intermittent fasting like that, the Eicosanoids they're so happy. Everything's running on time. So I've seen some people consume 3 or 4 or 5,000 calories in a meal, and
wow.
and I'm just shocked. I watch. I mean, I see. I pay attention.
It must be. Is that in Texas or is that everywhere in America?
They can't get enough. I call it the insulin roller coaster. You've been on a roller coaster and you're up and down, up and
yeah.
Yeah, well, your blood sugar gets high. Here comes insulin, knocks it down. And your body's saying, feed me something, feed me something. The brain's saying, I need it, I need it, I need it. So you go get something else like that. And then boom, and boom, and boom. You don't feel good. You're lining up for Starbucks. You're wanting whatever it is, Monster drinks. You're wanting, all those things to produce potential energy, 5-hour energy. It's not there.
Yes.
You have to promote the chemistry that really works, not I call all that stuff putting a Band-Aid on an artery that's open.
Right.
It's only a temporary fix. So I think when you clean up your diet and start to understand the eicosanoids and hormonal responses are everything.
Yes.
I even saw in my studies, I did major studies with the American Indian tribes in Oklahoma, and I saw when these people had a clean diet, that they actually grew hair, and people were wanting to walk somewhere. They didn't want to lay on the couch anymore. They wanted to go do something. They didn't want any junk food anymore. It changes you. It changes you.
Absolutely. Changes your cravings too, right?
Oh, of course, of course. And when the blood sugars are consistently normal, then the body doesn't want anything. It's only when blood sugars dip below a certain reading. And here's an interesting thing. Diabetes. As I said when I first started my practice in 1980, there's only 58 million worldwide.
Yes.
By the time I was in the 90s and millennium, I had to have 4 offices. And I was working at orthopedic institutes. I was trying to help these people out. It was unbelievable. And what we did, we got in the computer. Everybody was on the computer, and then we got the cell phones, and nobody sat down with their family to balance meals anymore. It was just grab anything you get from the fast food industry.
Yeah.
Don't think about it. They know what they're doing. Not true. But so then here comes the diabetes. And
Yes.
you produce insulin. Even a type 2 diabetic will produce insulin all the way to his death. But the insulin, because it's been triggered so many times, is become resistant.
Yes.
And doctors will tell you you're a pre-diabetic. There's no such thing. You're a diabetic. Okay.
Yeah.
And you better learn that, because every time a blood sugar goes above 140, it releases an alcohol, and that alcohol destroys the nerves in your eyes, your kidneys, your heart. It creates circulatory dilemmas and havoc. So the key is balancing the blood sugars, and you can do that by pushing away and choosing the right. But diabetes is a real problem, and in this country, in your country, countries, because of the huge amount of rice consumption, we just need to understand that just think about olive oil and making your proteins be good and choosing good carbs. If you cook your vegetables too long, you've cooked out all the fibers, so therefore it goes right in the bloodstream.
Yep.
Remember those things.
Absolutely.
Okay, I really enjoyed talking to you about it. I hope you learned something.
Well, thank you so much. It was an awesome video presentation from you.
I'd love to talk with you again.
It's criminal, in my opinion, what has happened to America in the last 50 years, what has happened in Canada through the food industry, the beverage industry. Look at what they've done to the people. If you go back, just 50 years and go to the beach, you could hardly find an obese person anywhere. Diabetes was, very non-existent. And today you got diabetes and obesity through the roof. Epidemic numbers of it.
Cancer epidemic.
Absolutely. And heart disease through the roof too.
It's all related to the eicosanoids. Remember, if they're going to shut down your bloodstream for 7 or 8 hours,
yes,
you're going to promote cardiovascular disease over a period of time. Now, it's pretty scary what you see when you're in my profession, and what you see, what can happen to somebody. So,
yes.
Take your time, think about what you do, because you're blessed with a great physical body. And I say that Lamborghini, Ferrari, Maserati's never created a better engine than what you got in your internals. And for sure, Dell, Bill Gates, or IBM have never made a better computer than what you got upstairs.
Awesome. So that's a great story.
You got to feed it what it needs. You plug in your computer to the right meal, and you're going to have the results you want.
Absolutely.
It's amazing how much more creative you get when you remove the insulin out of the bloodstream. It's an only emergency hormone. Yes, and I think I'd love to speak again to you.
Yeah, we'll do it again soon.
Dr. Oliver, you've done a great job.
Thank you, sir.
I'm going to send you a white lab coat and a stethoscope you can hang around your neck. Okay.
Thank you so much for the kind words. I appreciate your time, Doc. I really believe that those that listen to this will get a lot of great benefit from listening to you. I love the way you explain it in layman's terms, so it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I got one joke for you.
Okay.
What's the difference between a doctor and a duck?
I don't know.
Well, it's not that they're both quacks, but usually the doctor's bill is a lot larger than the duck's bill. So remember that.
That's a good one. True.
So eat healthy.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Okay. Take care. God bless.
Take care. God bless you. Peace.